Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me on this beautiful Monday, it is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck?
Doing well. Welcome back. You got your little long weekend, so hopefully you enjoyed it.
It was quite a nice time. Happy belated to you as well.
Thank you very much.
You enjoying your 40th over the weekend. How wild would that be if Charlie was actually much older than we all thought? It's just like the redheads don't age. All right, we got a lot to get to today. So let's just get this out of the way. Hit the like button. Do it.
Yeah.
Hit the freaking like button. It's really helping us. Your participation in the chat, all the likes and everything. It's great. So keep it up because it keeps us employed.
Numbers are on the rise. I do think that it seems like the more likes we get, the more that YouTube pushes out the show to other people.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand.
And it does seem like our live views on YouTube, even our not live views, but like we're getting more views. So it clearly is having an impact. So please like the show.
Yeah, and it helps. All of your interactions certainly help us as we move through this off-season of great consequence for our Philadelphia Flyers. But I actually want to start in Allentown today.
Phantom season is done. The good news about this, to everyone who watches the show, Bill can now stop once a week saying, so Charlie, if the Phantoms win the Calder Cup, will they hire Ian LaPerriere as head coach? Now that can thankfully cease. That sort of trolling, sort of serious point can now cease because the Lehigh Valley Phantoms did lose Game 5 of their series against the Hershey Bears. They are out of the AHL playoffs.
It was never so much about them hiring him. I just really wondered, would he, because I don't think, one, they could think he's Scotty Bowman, but PR-wise, like perception-wise, I just didn't think he could be a serious candidate because this is one of the things the entire fan base is united on. I feel like Ian LaPerriere, no thank you. You know, there are differing views on Rick Tocchet. There could be differing views on PHLY, whoever. But like Ian LaPerriere, nah. I wondered if a run through the Calder Cup playoffs, win a few rounds, could change the perception of him at least as a viable option. It was never going to be hiring him. But now, yes, that is over.
See, I guess where I came from is I actually did think. Now, what the fans' perception of him was, like, that's less of my concern because, like, I don't know, fans probably have their thoughts on Ian LaPerriere, and that's locked in. It obviously very much differs from the organization's thoughts on Ian LaPerriere because if they were in line, Ian LaPerriere would no longer be coaching, probably no longer be in the organization at all, given the vitriol that many online fans spew towards LaPerriere on a regular basis. But I did believe that if the Phantoms went on a run and, you know, won the Calder Cup, beating teams that on paper are better than them, that it would tempt the Flyers to be like, maybe he could be an option to be our next head coach. Now, the point I made at the start of this, probably like the first of like 6 or 7 times you brought up the possibility, was I don't think it. I think this is it's a conversation that will be rendered irrelevant because I don't think he's a good enough X's and O's coach to coach a team that far in the playoffs. But if he did, I could have seen the Flyers being like, all right, he just went from being the guy that we give the courtesy interview to because he's our AHL coach and that's what you do, to let's actually have a serious conversation about this. I didn't think that was possible because I didn't think he was going to be able to do it, and he didn't. So now that conversation, I would think, is probably over.
So after leading in this series 2-1, not even kind of, surprisingly, leading the series 2-1, they end up losing the series 3-2. They lose Game 5 in Hershey.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that it's not a shock that they lost the series. It's not even a shock after leading 2-1 that they lost the series. I think it was like the most likely outcome.
Hershey's a real good team.
Hershey's really good. We've discussed this at length. The thing that made this interesting was the Phantoms, for the first time, I feel like, had prospects we actually believed in or were intrigued by, guys with potential high-end NHL upside, plus a decent number of the AHL pros that you need to like seriously contend in the AHL because, you know, it's a man's league.
Right.
There are grown ass men there. You need 28-year-olds who, yeah, man, Tony Dick is what in the NHL, but he can score some freaking goals in the AHL. Like, you need those guys as well.
Very
like
true.
Mike Vecchione on Hershey.
Yeah.
Did he ever make it? No.
Darn good AHL player.
Like, there's a reason he's like always on a good AHL team now.
Yeah.
But the Flyers have a couple of prospects down there, and Alex Bump and Jett Luchanko, that I did want to just talk about their production.
Okay.
Starting with Alex Bump, because we remember, you know, he plays a couple of AHL regular season games, 3 points in those 2 games, and then in his playoff debut, 2 goals. It's like, oh my God, this guy, he is killing it, coming off of winning the NCAA tournament, all that. 0 points in the 6 games that followed. Now, like in game 1 of the Hershey series, Phantoms got shut out. Bump had 8 shots on goal in that game. That's something tells me he played well and the puck just didn't go in. Having not seen it, but Maddie, in our interview with her before game 5, was kind of like, you know, he's going through it. He's definitely making plays out there and doing some things, but a little snake bitten. When you see 0 points in those 6 games after the crazy start, what is your thought on Alex Bump?
I'm less, and I'm not concerned by any means. He's never been a blue chip prospect. He was a guy we got excited about. There's a lot of things to like about him, and I think he's going to take a real run at making the team, the big team, the NHL team, out of camp to start next season. But he's not perfect. He's going to have growing pains, both at the pro level in general and at the NHL level specifically, once, if and when he gets there. I don't worry so much about points because my thing is like, yeah, he created a lot of chances at times. He got, you know, robbed on a few high quality ones, especially in the beginning of the series. What does jump out at me though, because he's a shooter. He's a guy who shoots. He shot a ton at Western Michigan in his final season, where he's one of the true volume shooters at the college level. Final 4 games of the Hershey Bears series, you look at his shots on goal totals. 1 shot on goal, 0 shots on goal, 1 shot on goal, 2 shots on goal. That strikes me as a guy who was struggling to make the impact on games that he wants to make.
Yeah.
Like, I look at game 1, he doesn't have any points. 8 shots on goal. He was doing the thing. He was noticeable. He was involved in the play. He was a focal point of the attack. If he's then, over the final 4 games of the playoff series, averaging 1 shot on goal a game, that strikes me as a guy who maybe was struggling a bit to assert himself to the degree he wanted to against a really good AHL team. And that's just going to come with the developmental learning process of learning how to be a pro.
And that, I think, speaks to the whole idea of him joining the Phantoms for this run and going on an ATO and pushing off his ELC till to the start of next season. He wanted to go on a playoff run. Now, maybe it didn't last as long. It ends up being 7 games instead of 14 or something.
Sure.
But he got that learning experience, and just because you struggle doesn't mean it went poorly.
Right.
Like, you can learn something from struggling. What do I need to work on? And I don't think it's a crazy thought. Like, after going through a full college season, after going through a Frozen Four, winning a national title, celebrating a national title, and then joining a team for the end of the season and into the playoffs, like, oh yeah, he had the rocket up his ass for the first few games, and then he ran out of steam.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not so much fatigue as just like didn't have that initial burst because, I'm a pro for the first time.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just kind of makes sense that the production petered off. And like you said, not just the production, 4 shots on goal over the final 4 games.
Yeah.
Not enough.
That's not for him.
That's not his
for
game.
him. That's definitely not enough. He needs to be involved in creating chances and creating shots. The thing that really killed the Phantoms, though, and I mean, we could talk about how.
Yeah, I mean,
we could talk about how though it's Ian LaPerriere. It's Alex Bump. He didn't score. Like, they lost Parker Gahagen in game 3. They didn't win another game. Like,
well,
they had one goalie on their team this year that was good. And then he got hurt, and then suddenly they couldn't win. I mean, is it all goaltending? Always has been.
I mean, all of a sudden we're seeing Cal Peterson in there, and it's like, man, That's kind of a shame for the boys. That's the way it goes.
And I will say, because I saw some chatter on social media about this, I would not have tossed Carson Bjarnason in that game.
Can you really do that? I mean, I guess you can, but no, it doesn't make sense.
It would have been very John Tortorella throws Ivan Fedotov in the middle of a playoff race because he's tearing his hair out.
Because who else? Yeah.
And it's the thing that like the fans want up until the point when the guy they want struggles, and then they say he stinks.
And it's like, well, how could you have done that?
How could you have done that? He's terrible. Bust. And it's like, well, probably should never have been in a game in the first place.
All right. And speaking of production questions, Jett Luchanko now in the playoffs, the Calder Cup playoffs, 7 games, 6 points.
Pretty good.
All assists. 16 AHL games total for Jett Luchanko, 0 goals. And I did see some concern about this on the old Twitter, believe it or not, Charlie. But the one thing that I never saw brought up is that this is a 20 and over league, and he's 18.
He still 18, indeed.
Like
he does not turn
he will
19,
not be 19 until August. Yeah. Like, do you think that matters, first of all? Because that's the first thing I see. Like, yes, I want him to be the best player on the ice because he was our first round pick a year ago. And I want him on the NHL team this upcoming season, all of that. He does produce some points in the playoffs and a decent number of them primary assists. But when you see 16 AHL games, 0 goals, a concern or just, yeah, how about that? Weird.
Well,
or somewhere in the middle.
So I would say it's a concern, but it's not really a concern because, like, it's the worst thing in the world he didn't score a goal in the playoffs. He obviously was very effective in the playoffs. He was nearly point per game when the stakes went up. And if you watch a lot of the assists he had, they were great passes.
He created
They
the
were
goal.
not like, oh, he took a weak shot, rebound, and then some guy stuffs it in as a secondary assist. Like, no, he was the one creating the chances. He was good. Is it a concern that he didn't score a goal? Like, it's not a concern in isolation. It's a concern because the goal scoring has always been a concern about Jett Luchanko. His shot has never been that great. He's always been more of a leaning playmaker type of player. And you do know that, like, if he's going to hit his ceiling, the guy that they think he can become, I don't think he's ever going to be, scoring 30, but he's got to be popping 20. He's got to be scoring sometimes. And he does have very good hands around the net. He can finish on breakaways, on rushes, things like that. He needs to improve the shot, and he does need to be more assertive with the shot. To me, if anything, like, look, could it be a problem long-term? It could, because this was one of the negatives about him as a draft prospect. I remember when I watched him, like, ooh, he needs to work on that shot. He needs to take more advantage of that. He can't just be a playmaker because teams are going to lean on the playmaking in terms of defending him, and then suddenly, like, they're going to dare him to shoot. He's not going to shoot, or it's going to be muffins and whatever. But this could be the wake-up call that he needs to be like, hey, like, he got his taste of pro hockey and clearly needs to really work on that shooting to be able to thrive at this level. Hopefully this gives him a little bit of a direction to focus on this summer in terms of what his, obviously, like, there's only so many times you can, like, shoot a puck at a washing machine. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, work on your deception a little bit. Work on your velocity. Those sorts of things. Because now he knows that, well, the playmaking looks like that translates. There are other things he needs to work on if he wants to become a really good pro, and that's probably one of them.
And that's just having a shot that the defense has to respect allows you to better make plays.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not expecting him to be a goal scorer.
Yeah.
But he needs to score some goals. Like, he's not going to be a guy who's going to be getting 60 points by finishing with 10 goals.
No. All right, let's get to the big league, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and some good action over the weekend, Charlie. Was the Panthers tying the series the most predictable outcome even after falling down 2-0? Like, we even said it. Like, okay, the Leafs, I like what I'm seeing out of the Leafs. There's good pushback. Their best players have been outside of, Austin Matthews, have been their best players, and that's what that team needs to do. But when this series goes back to Florida, it won't even be a shock if it's 2-2.
We talked about it on the show.
That is exactly what has happened. I really like this test for both teams. Like, I think it's real good, but that was the most predictable outcome, right?
Yeah.
Like 2-2 after 4, after the Leafs go up 2-0.
It's surprising no one that Florida punched back because this is what they do. They're a really good team. Now, Toronto got off to that great start. Good for them. But no one thought when they went up 2-0 that the series was over. No one did. This is a mean series, man. And like, Florida has the reputation of being that team, rightfully so. They've earned it. Toronto's doing dirty stuff too.
Have to.
This is a dirty series.
It is, and that's making it a ton of fun. All the other series are 2-1. Mikko Rantanen. Now, like at the time, this is the biggest deadline trade I've in terms of a name involved. Huge circumstances, even like getting traded twice, all that. Is this the most impactful? I can't remember a more impactful deadline trade. And of course, because I don't remember this morning. So that's just the way my brain is. But my God, the guy is leading the playoffs in scoring. He's unfreaking believable. 9 goals and 9 assists. He rolls. I just remember talking to some people at DNVR after the initial trade happens. And they're like, sometimes he has a tendency to coast a little in the regular season, but when the lights are on, the playoffs, he is a playoff performer. Yeah, he is. He is really taking a hold. I just can't remember a bigger deadline acquisition. And listen, we all thought the Stars were really good prior to getting Mikko Rantanen. They have to be the odds-on favorite at this point. And they are in my head.
And again, they're doing this without maybe their best player.
Yes.
Probably their best player in Miro Heiskanen. He's still not back. Now, Robertson is back, and he's helped. He still looks a little rusty. He's not quite having the impact he had in the regular season, but he's back, and that helps them. But Rantanen is obviously taking center stage. Now, I think Rantanen right now, look, do I think his style, his size, his willingness to fight through contact works well in the playoffs? I do. I think he is a player who physically is well suited for the changes to style of play that happen in the postseason, the things they let go. I totally agree with that. That said, he's also on an incredible hot streak.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not expecting this to continue through the middle of June. It's easy to remember, it's easy to forget that the first 3-4 games of the first round series against Colorado, the prevailing narrative was, what's wrong with Mikko Rantanen? He's not doing anything. And now everyone's forgotten about that because he's on this crazy run. And rightfully so. He's been awesome. But I think this is less that Mikko Rantanen establishing himself as the best player in hockey and more really good elite level player playing at the absolute peak of his powers, which happens sometimes for really good elite level players. For 10 games, they can be, oh my God, he's incredible. And then they drop down to just being really good. I don't know how long this streak is going to last, but it's very clear he's on one of those right now.
It is very funny the way that first round series starts. And then all of a sudden, 11 points in the final 3 games against Colorado, and then just carries it over to the Jets. And it's, oh yeah, he's going to win the Conn Smythe. Doesn't even matter if they win or lose. It's just him. He's on a Reggie Leach run right now. So obviously he's going to keep it up.
I don't necessarily think
it's just been insane.
I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, but it would be very funny if the Mikko Rantanen playoffs begin with a series against Colorado and end with a series against Carolina. It's truly Mikko Rantanen going through all of his former teams.
If he what would that feel like? If you were who the hell's the GM there? Because Sakic's now king or whatever. He just runs the team.
McFarland?
But, yeah, McFarland. And then Tulsky, what would it feel like to be those guys? I don't know. Carolina, I think, is its own set of circumstances.
They might be angry at him.
Yeah.
That might be the Carolina players rally to show him what he passed up on.
But if I'm Nathan McKinnon, I'm just yo, bro, we had to trade him.
Yeah, exactly.
We couldn't have just
the Colorado players. Yeah, the guy who has to feel the worst is Marty Necas.
Yes,
because he's guys, you still like me, right? You do, right?
This isn't my fault. I didn't tell anyone to make this trade. I'm just sitting here. All right. Before we get into today's draft analysis, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. 1-800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Oh, man, you know I love Empire. Why do I love Empire? Because there's no BS with Empire. There's no, oh, well, you know, maybe if you go to the store yourself and find someone to talk to and tell them what you're looking for and give them the measurements you took, well, maybe they can help you. No, with Empire today, you get flooring professionals. And you get people who live and breathe flooring and who will be with you every step of the way. That's why it's a whole different ballgame at Empire. Their flooring experts, they bring the showroom right to your home. You don't have to go into the big box store, search around like it's Where's Waldo looking for someone to help you. They're there and they come to you so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space in your space and see how it looks up against your furniture, the colors in your room, and all of that. And they will take the precise measurements and have all of your questions answered. So there are no surprises. And with Empire today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. No one wants to wait around forever. No one wants to, okay, well, my house is going to be a construction zone for how long? And okay, I'm going to get this flooring in, and then what's the next part? We'll see, and you're planning all around that. Never the case with Empire. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. And PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right. A $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. And now let's talk about our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Because if you're maybe working from home, you're thinking about that next big project that maybe you're going to include Empire in on. You're thinking about that next big project. You're calling plays from your couch, even though you're working from home. It's just not the best look. Well, with the TrueMark Financial HELOC Select, you can tap into your home's equity and finally upgrade that home office and build out a better space, or just finish the project around your house you've been putting off. We all have those little things around our house. I'll get to that one day. I'll figure that out at some point. Well, this is the point, and this is how you can get it done. Because with a HELOC Select, you get a great low rate. You get flexible access. You can pull all the funds at once or only when you need them. And you get lower rates than most personal loans. And there's no penalties if you pay it off early. If you're financially responsible like Charlie and you're like, yeah, I can get this thing done. Well, there is no penalty for that. So visit TrueMark.com/PHLY to apply and turn your work from home game into a winning play. Terms and conditions apply. Visit TrueMark.com/HELOC. That's TrueMark.com/HELOC for details. Federally insured by the NCUA, Equal Opportunity Lender, NMLS number 404938. All right, today, our draft prospect du jour. Little brotherly love today, Charlie. We're going with Caleb Desnoyers of the QMJHL. Younger brother of Flyers prospect asterisk, Elliot Desnoyers. 6'2", 170-pound lefty center. Huge numbers playing in the Q. 84 points in 56 games. Almost a 2-point-per-game playoff run there in the Q with Moncton. Absolutely killing it there. Now the Q is a little bit of a higher scoring.
Well, it's not really
a lower competition.
I would say it's a lower competition.
That's what, yeah, because the big players put up huge numbers.
It's not as if I believe the guy who led the Q in points this year finished with like 104. So it's not as if it's actually a super high scoring league. It's that it's generally viewed as a league with less talent.
Yes.
Than the other, than the Dub, than the OHL. So that's more the thing. I feel like there is a perception. It's like, well, the numbers in the Q are crazy. Like, not really.
The high-end guys are just so much better than the average.
It's just viewed that, it's not as deep of a competition league as the other two. That's why there is some skepticism about the Q. But it's not like the guys who lead the league have 150 points.
Yeah. So there
was a time where that was the case, but that was long ago.
Yes. All right. So we are looking at Caleb Desnoyers, and as I mentioned, he is the younger brother. He's 5 years younger than Elliot Desnoyers of our Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And there was a time where we thought pretty highly of Elliot Desnoyers. It was his first year with the Phantoms. I think he was really impressive, and it's kind of been a backslide since then. And I think because of that, there's this kind of perception like we don't want this guy because we already dealt with one Desnoyers who kind of fell off the face of the earth prospect-wise. But it seems like we're talking about two totally different levels of player.
Okay, there's two pleas that I want to make to the to our listenership specifically, and then hopefully the online fan base collectively. My two pleas are: plea number one, do not be negative about Caleb Desnoyers because you're not as high on Elliot Desnoyers. That is plea number one. It is basically irrelevant. Caleb Desnoyers is a much better prospect than Elliot ever was. There's a reason why Elliot slipped to the back half of the draft. Caleb Desnoyers is bigger. He is smarter. He's a better skater. He's more talented. Like, it is, I guess, like, why that might be your first instinct. Please don't judge him based on his brother. He's a much better prospect. The second one, this is a guy we might get into later this week. Do not get mad at Jake O'Brien because he has a similar name to Jay O'Brien. These are my two pleas. Like, there are reasons why you can be negative on both of those guys. There are very good reasons. Very good reasons. It is not a good enough reason to be anti-Caleb Desnoyers because you're mad that his brother was once a top 10 prospect in the organization. Now he's like a top 20 prospect. And it is really dumb to be negative on Jake O'Brien because you have PTSD about a guy who, like, Jay O'Brien's American. Jake O'Brien's Canadian. They didn't even grow up in the same country. They just have similar names. So these are my two pleas. Just do not punish either of those guys in your personal estimation because of guilt by association. It doesn't make sense. And now let's get to the actual analysis of Caleb Desnoyers. But I wanted to get that out of the way because it's nuts.
To that end, there are two Strome brothers pretty good. We had the third one, and it was like, well, look at the other. Yeah, they're totally going to work. Yeah. Well, no. There can be.
Yeah, we got the one who's not an NHL.
Yeah, like, there can be differences here. And as a rule, now this didn't work out in our sample, because we had the youngest Strome, and he was by far the worst. But I always think the younger brother has the best chance to turn out the best because they end up always playing with an over 8. Like, they are competing to keep up with, Elliot 5 years younger than him. For most of his life, he's able to just get beaten up by his older brother because of the difference. And if they're, out there on the backdoor rink, whatever, the backyard rink, like, if he's going to keep up at all, he had to get real good real fast. That's it. But we'll talk about Caleb Desnoyers on the strength of his own resume because it is pretty damn impressive, Charlie.
So here's one thing I do want to say before we get going. I'm curious as to how, when he gets to the NHL, how he's going to want his first name pronounced. Because it is, in French-Canadian way, it is Caleb Desnoyers. However, I wonder if when he gets to the pros, he might just be like, yeah, just call me Caleb. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm going to call him Caleb Desnoyers because that is the way everyone in Canada refers to him as.
That is how, like, in all the scouting reports I watched, they are pronouncing it.
You can still go Caleb Desnoyers if you so choose.
The French-leaning like narrators especially really leaned into it.
They do lean heavily.
And the way they pronounce his last name, I'm not even going to try.
Well, that's just French.
That's just
French accent.
Yeah, that's just how you speak French. But yes, Caleb Desnoyers, lefty center, 6'2", 172. And I really like this comp you've made because going into that 2017 draft, I was huge on Nico Hischier. Really seemed like, okay, well, the Devils are taking him, so it doesn't matter. But if I had my choice, I'd go Nico. He seemed just far more interesting than Nolan Patrick. And now you've made this comp.
He's a more interesting player today, too.
Well,
much more interesting.
We know how it worked out. But I appreciate this comp, and you kind of put their numbers together with their pace. What do you think? How do you think this translates? Like, okay, Nico Hischier is your pro comparison. And I know we've said in the past, like, pro comps are always unfair. He's like, no one ever chooses, like, the median outcome. It's like, well, what's the best possible outcome? I remember just seeing Cam York. Oh, yeah, Brian Leach. Like, oh yes, an American defenseman.
that'd be cool.
You just went with the best possible American defenseman, and sure, that's how it'll probably turn out. But like, how did you arrive at this comparison, or the comparison that you've seen the most?
So I want to make it abundantly clear. This is not necessarily a stylistic comparison. These guys have differences. Specifically, Nico Hischier is a much better skater than Desnoyers.
Much faster.
Now Desnoyers is not a bad skater.
No.
But Nico, that was a plus tool. It is not a plus tool for Caleb Desnoyers. The reason why I like the comparison is because I think Hischier's level of impact at the NHL level is what you're hoping for from Caleb Desnoyers, in that Hischier is not a superstar. He is not a guy who is going to be the best player, maybe not even the second best player on a cup team. But he's going to be very good all around, and he's going to make life easier for the guys he plays with. What's interesting about Hischier, and we've talked about it on this show, is that Hischier often gets talked about as, well, he's a future Selke winner. Maybe he should have been nominated for the Selke this year. But then you dive into his numbers, and it's not that he's bad defensively, but he's not, oh my God, great defensively. He's just really good at everything. He's an all-around player. And because of that, he ends up grading out really well by two-way metrics, by play driving metrics, where it's Flyers are the Devils are dominating the shot on goal and the expected goals battles at 5-on-5 when he's on the ice. He does all the things, but he's not quite elite defensively. He's not bad defensively. He's not elite at it. And I think that's kind of how I see Caleb Desnoyers, in that he's good at pretty much everything, and he's very smart. And I don't see a world where he's not a center. Nico Hischier on the Devils is one of the best 2Cs in the NHL behind Jack Hughes. That, to me, is probably your ideal spot for Caleb Desnoyers. Caleb Desnoyers, what's fascinating about him, and I really like Caleb Desnoyers. I like him a lot. I like him a lot as a player. I like him a lot as a prospect. I would be totally fine with him being the 6th overall pick. If you watch tape on him, he's never going to be the guy when you watch tape on where you're like, oh man, I am super excited about Desnoyers. You're not. That's not his game. His game is the details. The two guys who you hear come up a lot when people talk about comparisons for Desnoyers are Hischier, because again, the production draft year, almost identical.
Yeah.
Almost identical. And then you hear Sean Couturier. Now, I think Couturier is actually elite defensively, and I don't think Desnoyers, when I watch him, I don't see the commitment to the details in the defensive zone that Couturier had at age 18. That was there from the jump. He was, oh God, this guy's going to win Selkies. I don't see that with Desnoyers, but I do see the hockey IQ. The hockey IQ, the ability where it's every play he makes, even the subtle ones, push play in the right direction. They get the puck to a teammate in a good spot to let that teammate do cool things. And probably the best way I can sell Desnoyers as a guy where even if you watch tape and you're not super excited about him, why you should still be excited about him as a possible option for the Flyers. We all liked what Sean Couturier was able to do with Matvei Michkov over the final month of the year. We liked that fit. It was man, what if Couturier was the skater, was better skater? And what if he was a bit more skilled? And what if he didn't have multiple back surgeries and was in his 30s and was in decline? Think of the upside of Caleb Desnoyers on the Flyers being that Couturier, but faster and younger and probably a bit more overall skilled in terms of the plays he can make, dangling wise. But it's that same idea where it's okay, you put the hockey IQ, the facilitator, the support guy, the clear-cut center on a line with Michkov, and that allows Michkov to do even more Michkov things, where Desnoyers, you wake up at the end of the year and it's he's got 70 points. Cool. Good season. That to me is...
And 4 of them are highlights.
That to me is the upside of Desnoyers as the pick for the Flyers, in that he might be the best fit to let Michkov
go off.
Be Michkov.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part for me about the Desnoyers-Michkov fit.
And I think this... Pronman broke down a ton of the players in a recent article, and the quote that just seemed to really stick out that everyone has really said about Desnoyers While Desnoyers is excellent across the board, he doesn't have any true elite traits. And
It's true.
while that is maybe okay, he's got a limited ceiling in terms of, yeah, he probably isn't a 1C. He's probably not the number one center on a Stanley Cup contending team. He does have the ability to kind of adapt into a role the way he's here. Like, yes, if we have a Jack Hughes, we have the best 2C behind him in Nico Hischier to take some of the hard minutes, take some of the burden off of the 1C in terms of matchups and things like that, and just let them do what they do. And like you said, making life easier for his line mates so that a super skilled guy in Michkov can be at his best doing what he does. So I think that is the knock, or at least the overall consensus on what he is. Now,
and I don't think that's incorrect.
Yeah.
I think that it just comes down to whether you view that as a positive or a negative. Because I think there are more, like, James Hagens is definitely a more exciting player than Desnoyers. Anton Frondel, probably a more exciting player than Desnoyers as well. Desnoyers brings some safety, to be sure, but I don't think that's necessarily a knock because he's so good at getting more out of everyone else. Even if he's not necessarily the guy who's popping, when you really dig down and watch him play, you see all the things he does to put everyone else in better positions. And not even that. One thing I really like about his game, and this could be one thing that makes him a really good fit with Michkov as well, he doesn't score a lot of his goals by, like, lugging the puck and then ripping a shot, where he's done all the work and then has a singular effort. What he's really good at is he's really good at finding open spaces, getting to the net front, and then making himself either a target for a pass or putting himself right there to, like, clean up the garbage. He gets a lot of high danger chances because of that. It's his instincts, it's his off puck play. And that's exciting to put next to a guy like Michkov, who, like, I've talked about how Hagens thinks the game very well in the offensive zone, but it's more on the flashy side.
yeah.
Desnoyers thinks the game very well in the offensive zone, more on the support side, where, like, Michkov might just be able to find him because Desnoyers has that ability to get lost in the slot area in a way that Hagens, that's not. Hagens is the playmaker. Hagens is going to find Michkov for those goals, whereas Desnoyers might actually be better at, being the target for Michkov passes because he owns that area, not in the sense of, like, being physically dominant, but in the sense that he just has that knack for, like, you forget about him. And then he pops up and he scores. That's what he does really well. That's how he racks up his goals and his points.
I think another exciting part of Desnoyers, maybe not exciting, but, like, okay, that's a check. I know they shouldn't be drafting for need, but they do need to fix the center pipeline here.
They do.
And it seems like there's very little question about him sticking at center.
Very little.
While that exists somewhat with, like, Frondel and Hagens, who we've talked about, like, yeah, maybe they're just wingers and maybe they have more upside as wingers, and maybe they have more upside than Desnoyers in terms of place in the lineup, but they might not do it as a center. And it seems like Desnoyers, yeah, maybe he tops out as a 2C, but he is a 2C. Like, that's a thing. That kind of seems like another pretty across-the-board opinion on him.
I would say I share that opinion. It's hard for me to envision a world where he's not a center at the NHL level. Now, maybe the worst case scenario for him is he's just a 3C. I personally don't share that. I think he's going to be a good second line center at least. And I could see a world where he is a Hischier-esque 1C where, maybe if he's your 1C, people are constantly yelling like, well, they could use a better 1C, but in terms of, like, is he one of the 32 best centers in the NHL? Like, yeah, I think Nico Hischier is absolutely one of the 32 best centers in the NHL. So by definition,
fair enough,
he is a 1C. Now, is he a 1C on a championship team? If Matvei Michkov is scoring 120 points a year, yeah, probably. But he's not, the the guy who's on highlight reels and whatnot. And like, it just kind of comes down to whether you're okay with that. I personally am. At 6, I would be perfectly fine with that because I like everything else he brings to the table. But I could see people who want that pick to have a little bit more flash and maybe a little bit more offensive upside to be lower on him than others are. I would get that.
All right, I want to do a little more Desnoyers in just a minute. But first, let's take another quick commercial break. Got to talk to you about our friends at the BetParx online casino because you know I am a big fan of the BetParx casino. And one of the things I love about it, it's the BetParx app because now I don't even have to leave my home to get all the fun of Parks right in the palm of my hand. It's all the games we love to play in person at Parx Casino, like the pop culture slots, even roulette, cards, dice games, and more. You can find them all and play them on the BetParx app. The Parx Online Casino is all the games you love, whether you're at home or on the go. You know, say maybe you got a little bit of your work done and you're just killing some time before your noon podcast starts. Well, open up your phone, maybe win a little money over at the Parx Online Casino. Spin that wheel on the slots, play some dice. Who doesn't love to play dice in their spare time? Now you can right on your phone. So download the BetParx app and create an account today to receive an offer you just cannot pass up. New users are eligible to receive up to $1,000 back if you are down in the first 24 hours after signing up. BetParx Online Casino is available to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions apply. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21 and over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. While we're here, have to talk about Ashley Furniture because it's on at Ashley. You can shop the Memorial Day sale now at Ashley Furniture and save $100 off of every $1,000 you spend. Plus, get amazing savings on outdoor furniture. And that's not all. You can get 60 months special financing and have your furniture delivered locally for free. Plus, with your qualifying purchase, you can get a free gift and save on top brand mattresses and get that free local delivery, setup, and removal. Best deal in the game. They bring it to you. They put it together. They take away your old stuff. Doesn't get any better than that. So shop at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, and visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information. Financing with approved credit, minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. All right.
Want to talk about some of the things I very much like about Desnoyers. But one thing that is definitely worth pointing out, because it goes into things I like about him, but also goes into his potential availability at 6. Worth pointing out, he's having a fantastic postseason run with Moncton. He's got 28 points in 15 games, 9 goals, 19 assists. It seems like they are on track to get to the Memorial Cup. So we are probably going to see Desnoyers in the Memorial Cup where he will get an opportunity to showcase what he can do. He's a guy where the book on him, and this has been the book on him for a long time, is that he elevates his game in big moments. That his style works very well in the most competitive games because of the hockey smarts and because he does have a physical element to his game. Now, he's not Brady Martin. He's not just like wrecking ball, throwing hits at it whenever he can. That's not him. But number one, he will throw hits. He will finish his checks. And there have been times like the Hlinka Gretzky tournament, which is at the beginning of his draft year. I don't know if it was just like the way the games went or if he went into that tournament with in his head, like, I'm going to show scouts I can play physical, because he spent that tournament hitting everyone. And it just showed you that that's there, that there is a part of him that wants to dish out punishment. Now, the big thing for him at this point is he needs to get a lot stronger. He needs to bulk up. There are times where he can get knocked off the puck, but in a way that almost is good, because I look at him as a guy where if he gets stronger, and I think he will, I think when he gets on an NHL weight program, hopefully after he gets drafted, and the Flyers or whoever can tell him, okay, this is how you do it. I think his skating will get better.
Yeah.
And I think his physical play will get better. And he does have the mentality to use it. He has the willingness to throw hits. And I suspect he will throw more hits once he feels like he's strong enough to actually knock a guy over rather than just hit him.
Well, I saw plenty in the scouting reports and in the highlights, like he gets behind the net, throws a hit, wins a battle, and it was, oh yeah, look at this guy.
Yeah.
And then other times he gets in there and a bigger defenseman just like uses his ass to bump him off. And it's like, why are you in the opposite corner now? And while he's 6'2", he is only like 172. I've seen him somewhere else at like 178. But if he was like 6'2", 196, I feel like he's going top 4.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think you could get there. I mean, because you look at him, we talked about this with Hagens and Frondell, where like Frondell, he looks built, whereas Hagens looks slight.
Yeah.
Desnoyers, he's taller. He might come in at like 6'1.5", something like that, but he does look like he could fill out. He looks like there is room.
He has a frame.
There is room for more muscle on that frame, and you'd have to believe that over time, that look at somebody like Travis Sanheim. Travis Sanheim was a string bean. Now, he is not like a bulky guy now, but he's big, and it took time.
He added 20 points, and it didn't take away from his skate.
He got
20 pounds, and it didn't take away from his skate.
He got there. I think Desnoyers can put on significantly more muscle, and I think it's a very clear pathway to improving elements of his game that are in need of improvement, as opposed to like, I don't think that a guy who has mediocre hockey IQ is one day going to wake up and become smart. Whereas a guy who has the willingness to throw hits, but isn't quite strong enough to take full advantage of it, like in 2-3 years, he can get strong. And then suddenly he is then maybe not Brady Martin level hitter, but he has a physical element to his game that sets him apart from most prospects at the top of this draft.
I feel like, and this isn't necessarily a great thing, we should just do Brady Martin forever. Like until June, we should talk about Brady Martin every day because it's just this is what's going to happen. But no, with Desnoyers, I agree. Like that was the thing. Like, okay, he's not super fast. He doesn't have the most powerful stride, but when leg day becomes more productive,
yes,
he could.
And like, when I watch him skate, I don't see,
and it's not a weakness.
I don't see a guy who has like, it's not like Matthew Strome where you're watching, you're like, what is he even doing?
This is
he's like, his knees are flopping around. Like, what is he doing? There's no technique. You watch Desnoyers skate, he looks mostly fine.
Yeah.
He just doesn't, and he shows the burst sometimes. I would say right now he is an NHL average skater. But it would not shock me if, as he gets stronger, he turns into an NHL above average skater. I don't think he's ever going to be a Hagens level skater. He doesn't have the fluidity. He doesn't have the agility that Hagens has. But I could see him becoming solidly above average if he just works on his legs and works on his strength in that area. Like, whereas you look at like Tyson Forrester, when he got drafted, was a bad skater. He has worked himself so pretty much entirely just by getting stronger in his lower body to the point where he is like a bit below average. He's gotten significantly better. I think Desnoyers can do the same, except he's coming from a point where he is average. And maybe he can get to above average if he just works on his strength training for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
I'm at a point, like just looking and listening about Desnoyers, it just doesn't feel like a big swing. Now it does not feel like a big swing. I would agree with that. How big of a, like it's 6. This has to be something. Like I don't want the potential of a strikeout at 6, like with Roger McQueen, but this does kind of feel like the sort of pick we talked about last week where you get a safer, surer thing. And if you're like able to pair that with, say, a sliding McQueen or something, now we had an awesome first round.
Yeah.
But just this on its own and then drafting at, 24 and 29, I don't know if that's going to come away exciting anybody. Maybe it's the right pick, but it doesn't feel like the hell yeah pick.
I think that's reasonable. I think that Desnoyers, if he's the pick, will be that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And it very well might ultimately be the right pick. He might be the guy when you go back through 6 years down the road and it's like, yeah, Frondell's a really good winger and Brady Martin's a good middle sixer and Roger McQueen, it plays 40 games a year because his back
really good
up.
40 games.
Yeah, and his back flares up all the time. And then Caleb Desnoyers is scoring 70 points a year as a top 6 center. And the main point of contention is people on whatever the social media app du jour is by then screaming about whether he's actually a 1C or not. Like, I'll take those debates. That's not bad.
Maybe it's like a PHLY app. Like,
Maybe.
we just do it on
We'll
our
get
own.
one of those eventually.
We just do it on our own. You know, there's an app where you come in and it's like the Discord, but a full social media account. I am intrigued by Desnoyers. I don't know if he's like my guy material, but I do like him. Like, if they pick Caleb Desnoyers, I don't think I will be the least bit disappointed.
It's not. It's not the flashy pick.
I'm not gonna walk away from the draft like I did last year. Like, what are they doing?
Right.
And like, maybe they're proven right about Jett Luchanko. Maybe a few years, he takes a little longer. He's more of a project, but he gets here and we're like, hell yeah, this dude rules. But that day, I was like, what? The only list of mine he was on was the cool names list. You know, like, maybe they're right, but like Desnoyers, I don't think that's what are they doing? Like, no, yeah, this is cool, but it's not oh man, we didn't get the 6'5" guy, we didn't get the super fast guy, we didn't get the guy who should have gone number 1, but didn't have the great draft year, so he fell to us. Like, it's just cool, yeah, good pick.
I've gotten the sense over the course of the year in conversations I've had that the Flyers like Desnoyers, that he is very much a guy where, like, let me put it this way. I think, and I could be wrong, maybe because they were all at the under 18s, maybe they've all just collectively fallen in love with Brady Martin. But I think that if both Caleb Desnoyers and Brady Martin are on the board at 6, they're taking Desnoyers. I think he's a guy who they've had their eye on for a while. Obviously, they have the connection with his brother, but I just get the sense that he's a guy that they've liked for a long time. Now, is he their preferred option? Like, is he the guy where if they would have stayed at 4, would they have taken him? Maybe, but I definitely think that he's a guy where, like, he's in that top tier for them. And if he's the guy out of the 6 that falls to 6, I'm fairly confident he would be the pick. I just have a gut feeling. I don't know if he's going to fall to 6.
And that, speaking to that, you mocked Desnoyers to Utah at 4. As did Scott Wheeler of The Athletic in his first mock draft. So real good chance he ain't even there, but it does seem like it's just that tier of guy. There's going to be somebody who's there at 6 and could very well be him. And just in terms of the Flyers' interest, how much of it do you think is, and not even a bad thing, it's just we know they like having some sort of connection. Maybe that goes back to the Gauthier thing where it's like we don't have a way to communicate with this guy, and suddenly he's gone. And it's like, yo, our guys in London, we're in constant contact with them, and the coaches we can talk to because they're our pals. And you talked about Brent Flair having the connection with the one Swedish program, and they like guys there. Yeah. This is another one. We know his freaking brother, and we think very highly of his brother's character, despite his flaws as a player. They're fans of him as a person. Do you think that's a big part of their potential interest?
Is it a big part of it? No.
At least a link?
Because they picked Jett Luchanko with no real connection with him whatsoever. Okay. They just loved him. Is it a bonus? Sure. I think it's a bonus. And it's also a bonus, too, that, like, this, I think, absolutely is something that they would like. So say what you will about Elliot Desnoyers' development, the fact that he is, popped in that first season in the AHL, and since then he's regressed. If he doesn't make it in the NHL, and right now it does seem like he's trending towards not necessarily making it in the NHL, no one in that building, and I can say this with 100% confidence, no one in that building will question Elliot Desnoyers' work ethic and his drive and how much he cares. No one will. That is something that everyone in the Flyers organization is like, this guy is a hockey sponge. He's spending, months in the training facility during the summer when he's like 19. Like, he's doing everything he can. And I do think that probably makes them feel better about his younger brother, because it's like, he comes from a good family that instills that, like, I'm going to get the absolute most out of whatever I am. I think that absolutely, like, knowing his brother and knowing who his brother is as a person, and they all think very highly of him as a person, I think that is a boost for Caleb Desnoyers, because it's like, they're going to look at it as He's way more talented than his brother. And if he's 80% of the person that his brother is, we're going to get a hell of a player.
If Elliot doesn't make it, it will simply be because he wasn't good enough to make it.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do. Well, if he had, but he didn't really. No, that doesn't exist. It's just like at the end of the day, some guys are good enough and some aren't.
And I talked about it on Friday with Steve that like one of the reasons why I don't like, and Desnoyers for a while looked like he might be the exception. But one of the reasons why I don't like from like, let's say round 5 to round 7, I don't like taking guys from the Q, the OHL, and the dub is because everybody's watched them every single year.
And no one took a shot.
And no one took a shot at them early. Like, I would rather my 6th round picks be guys in Russia or guys playing in Swedish juniors, guys who maybe you know a little bit more about because you're the Flyers. You have the big scouting department. You can spend the money to go for the under-scouted guys. Desnoyers as a 5th round Q pick, he's the kind of guy that like the odds were always against him, and it was a pleasant surprise when it looked like he might turn into a good 4th liner. I don't think it is anything against him as a person that now it's looking like he's trending not to be. And I think that absolutely helps Caleb Desnoyers in terms of how the Flyers view him. Also, Spencer Gill's brother is on Caleb Desnoyers' team. So that's another potential.
There you go.
Little person you can ask, like, hey, what's he like? What does he? How's he like in the gym, Spencer? Is he as good of a leader as we hear? You're getting firsthand information.
All right. Before we get to today's super chats, I got to tell you about a couple of things going on right here at PHLY. First and foremost, you have to join us at Valley Brook Country Club for the 2nd annual PHLY Liberty Open Golf Tournament presented by Xfinity. It is on June 14th. From 2 to 7 p.m., Xfinity combines the power of internet and mobile in one all-in-one plan. You can get lightning-fast speeds at home and a secure network on the go. Restrictions apply. Xfinity internet required. Actual speeds may vary. That's our presenting sponsor for this, but this event is going to be absolutely awesome. It's a 4-person scramble. It includes a limited edition PHLY golf tee gift, plus prizes, a post-round dinner, and draft beer, along with a great raffle, including Philly memorabilia. If you've been to any of our events before, our draft party, our Festivus, all of it, we have some really, really cool giveaways, raffles, all sorts of awesome items that you can win and bid on, all of that. So make sure you come on out and visit allphly.com/events to learn more and purchase an individual or foursome reservation for the tournament. Diehard members are eligible to save $50 on a foursome. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's allphly.com/events. And just bookmark that events calendar because we're always doing really cool stuff here at PHLY, whether it's our upcoming draft party, all of that. But another thing going on in the very near future, it is the PHLY NFL schedule release show. PHLY is going to be hosting a special NFL schedule release extra show presented by our friends at Philly Sports Trips on Wednesday, May 14th, with coverage kicking off at 7:30 p.m. to discuss the 2025-26 NFL season schedule. Tune in to see the PHLY team react to the matchups coming down the pipe for our reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Again, the NFL schedule bonus show will be held on Wednesday, May 14th, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you tune into that. We have all sorts of really fun stuff coming up with our friends at Philly Sports Trips. So stay tuned into that. Philly Sports Trips, of course, sent us to Montreal. They're turning out to be amazing partners, great events, and they're going to sponsor our NFL schedule release show. Got a little bit of info on that NFL schedule today, but plenty more to come. So make sure you check that out and what trips you might be able to go on with the Birds this year. All right, let's hit those super chats.
All right, before we go to super chats, though, I know we're going to overtime, and I'm not doing the Kelly thing. I want us to get to 250 likes. So I'm hitting the button now. We got super chats, and we're going to be on for a bit more. Let's try to get to 250.
All right, go to allphly.com to keep watching. Of course, we're in overtime. Let's hit those super chats, and not a ton today, but plenty of likes and stuff, so we'll forgive you. All right, we'll lead it off with Doug Thomas, $5 from Dougie T. I want to be on the record that the Flyers need to offer sheet.
Hey, it's in overtime. It's fine.
Offer sheet Matthew Nyes. Yeah, at least it's not on Roku, so that doesn't count. No money in the swear jar for this one. Offer sheet Matty Nyes. There is rumor, Charlie, that Matty Nyes has kind of floated out there like, hey, offer sheet me.
Really?
Yeah, like I think it's just like, look at what he's doing. Look at the type of player he is. And he's on a team where a considerable amount of cap space is going to be allocated to other guys. And as a restricted free agent, there's only so many ways to get what you're actually worth rather than even an arbiter's like, yeah, all right, we'll cut it down the middle. Yeah, you get whatever. What would you think? It's not, I wouldn't say like the number one need of this team, but he is real freaking good.
Well, what it is at its core, and I don't want to put words in Doug Thomas's mouth. Maybe he merely loves the fact that he scores lots of goals. But what it really boils down to is he would fill that salivation for the big power forward. That would be what, the guy with size who plays with some grit. Like that would be the filling that hole, checking that box that so many Flyers fans have, because it just makes Flyers, and look, like the Flyers need a net front guy for the power play. That's something they're lacking, but it goes beyond that. It just comes down to the fact that it makes Flyers fans feel better about themselves when the Flyers have that big, tough scoring winger. Like, that was Wayne Simmons. Everybody loves Wayne Simmons, but it just made you feel better about being a Flyers fan that Wayne Simmons was on the Philadelphia Flyers.
While that is true, and maybe we do overrate this stuff at times, the Flyers need a power forward.
They do.
Like, this is not like of course, the Broad Street Bullies need the... Like, yeah, is it a little ridiculous that we have to have a Nick Delorier and stuff like that? Sure. They need a big, tough dude in front of the net, winning battles behind the net, boxing out for Matvei Michkov to create room. Like, they do need a dude to create some room.
And it's worth saying that,
and score a ton of goals. It's not as if this, he scores a lot.
There is, while you could say that, like, the Fighters are a classic archetype for the Flyers, one thing that absolutely is also a classic archetype for the Flyers is the big goal-scoring winger. I mean, you've got Tim Kerr, you've got John LeClaire, you've got Wayne Simmons, like
Rick Tocchet,
Rick Tocchet. Like, that is something that Flyers fans dating decades back have been taught, that like, this is what we have. We have at least one of these types of guys. And right now, basically ever since they traded Wayne Simmons, they haven't had that type of guy. So I get why people look at, are watching the playoffs and seeing what Matthew Nyes is doing and being like, yeah, I want that. I want that. They're walking through the supermarket. They're walking through the department store and just being like, "Mom, get me that."
And listen, I just I would love it. I just don't know how many more resources can be allocated on the wing. Like, that's the thing is,
fair.
We have a bunch of these guys now. Especially the one we've already paid a decent amount of money to. Maybe not living up to expectations, but. They need help down the middle. They need help in net. They need help on the blue line. I just don't know how much else we can allocate to the wing.
I guess the only thing I'll say about that is that I do believe, because look at who we have running the organization. You've got Keith Jones, especially Keith Jones in this case, but like Danny Briere, you've got people who know the market. I have to believe that at some point, this is going to be a priority. That they know that, like, we need to get this type of guy, if only to just shut up the fans who will never stop saying we need this type of guy. So, like, there's an element of, well, why not just get him now? What the hell?
It would be nice, though, if, like, Emil Andre could take a shot from the point and it had any chance whatsoever of being tipped into the net on purpose by a forward.
This is fair.
All right. From Purple Crayon, great to hear from you, Perp. I have an alternative to Caleb Desnoyers.
I bet Harold does, and I bet that alternative.
We're calling him Harold.
I am 100% calling him Harold. Okay. If you see Purple Crayon, what else are you thinking? You're obviously thinking Harold.
Maybe that's what it is.
So I'm calling him Harold. Okay. I would say that alternative may rhyme with Todger. I don't even know. Todger.
We know what kind of
scene.
Yeah. We know what kind of Roger McQueen fan Purple Crayon is. I think that is the exact type of draft pick that we would want to pair with McQueen.
Yeah.
Like I said, okay, maybe not the biggest swing, maybe not the most exciting of the prospects, but you kind of already have an idea of what his floor is. What if you get the guy with the high ceiling, but you just don't know because of the injuries? All right, now we had a really great first round.
And it would also certainly end all talk that the Flyers are too small down the middle.
Yes.
Because then suddenly, I mean, hey, if they were to do that and, and McQueen pans out, then suddenly you've got what? You've got a 6'5" center. You got a 6'2" center. You got a 5'11" center. Oh, we'll deal with it. And then you got a 6'4" center, 6'3" center in Couturier.
Yeah.
Then suddenly you are big down the middle. That is like the identity of your team. You're a big team down the middle.
All right, next one is from Eli Shaka. Says, Charlie, do the coaches ever take time for specific players to focus on shot accuracy in season, like making someone practice free throws?
So yes, to a degree, the way they do it, and this is, I wouldn't say new, but it was new for the Flyers. The Flyers hired Angelo Ricci as their skills coach. He was their skills coach for a long time. He got let go in the coaching purge earlier this offseason that got rid of, obviously, Rocky Thompson and also Darryl Williams. But Angelo Ricci was the skills coach. It would not be an everyday thing, although you could stay after practice and work on something with the skills coach, and some guys certainly would. But there would be days scattered throughout the season that were designated as skills days, and you'd see them bring out like certain types of props almost that would allow Ricci to like focus on one specific thing, whether it's like one specific way of dragging the puck around the defenseman or one specific type of shooting. Like, oh, you gotta pull the puck back and then shoot, and let's have that end up hitting the top corner. So those days, yes, but I wouldn't say it was a daily thing. Those were special days that like they focused less on cardio and battle drills and more on like, okay, let's fine tune a specific element of your game rather than focusing on like John Tortorella being John Tortorella.
I was gonna say, were these days like, oh, John Tortorella has a dentist appointment today, we can actually work on like getting better on offense?
I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I'm sure that happened at least once or twice.
We're allowed to work on getting better on offense rather than just like hit the guy in the mouth. Anyway.
But Eli, to answer your question, yes, they do. It's not a daily thing, but there are skills days. Now, currently they don't have a skills coach. I would have to believe they will likely hire someone to take up that role once they know who their head coach is going to be.
Probably Ian LaPerriere.
Oh, God.
And finally, from Tim N., great talk on Desnoyers today. Great hearing the details of his game and play style. Hope there are more prospects to come. Keep it up, guys. There are. As long as I feel like there's the possibility for a dude at 6, we're going to talk about this tier of player, and then eventually we'll get to the picks in the 20s and what they might be able to end up using that for. But listen, draft is what, June 27th, the first round?
Yes.
Plenty of time. We're going to have plenty of prospect talk to come. But that is all the time we have for you on this edition of PHLY Flyers. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit that like button. We're up to 240, 241 now. So it's going well. Keep bumping it up, but way to go, everybody. Thank you for that. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. Follow us right here on the YouTube. Set that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow and all week at noon Eastern. So hit that reminder bell, never miss the live show. And follow the podcast, wherever you get those as well. We are still a podcast at heart. Just search PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. This has been PHLY Flyers. I don't know. Let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.